Hey everyone, today we're continuing our Don't Cancel Me conversation on race and colorism. How do you feel that the beauty industry has evolved for women of color? When it comes to makeup, hair, and all these other things, has it evolved?
I mean, I think there's some things we're excited about, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think about Fenty's campaign, right? Like, that drop was
all
iconic.
the shades.
Yeah, all the shades. And I think for us, it's like, oh, okay, word, like, as it should be, right? But I think so many people realize, like, oh, wow, all of these corporations, beauty industry has just offered such a narrow scope of what type of foundation you can use for your skin. So I think there's that. I think there's definitely, like, more of a natural hair movement that, you know, it's not mimicking like what was happening in the 60s or 70s, right? Where everyone's like trying to wear their fro out. But I do think
hair treatments and products.
Yeah, and actually like trying to wear your hair naturally is like becoming more of a thing, like reclaiming that, and that's super exciting.
What about skincare? Because I'm super big into skincare.
I love a skincare
I think that also when it comes to skincare, they've kind of diversified and created products that are for women that are of color, that are melanated, and I think that that's important too. Now let's talk about the real. Do you feel that there's still a stigma to look a certain type of way in the media these days?
I mean, for sure, right? Like, I think of our conversations around colorism and like the media representation and, you know, all of these things that it's like, absolutely, right? Like, I still think we live very much so in a white supremacist, colorist, fat-phobic society where, especially I can imagine for someone like you, where you have this huge visible platform, it seems like there really is a lot of pressure for people to look a certain way, particularly women, particularly Black women, you know, I think also women of color, like to really fit a box. You know, that is like thinner or, you know, the curves in only a certain way, right? Like not too thick, you know, slim, thick, like we hear all these things. And yeah, I would say the majority of what we're seeing in the media still represents like a narrow representation, right? Like I don't think we're seeing enough dark-skinned models running, you know, in a runway. I don't think we're seeing enough dark-skinned actors and actresses, right? And it's not just around like in the heights, right? Like in general, in music, like even all of the representation is still off, right? It's not actually where it needs to be.
Well, I can definitely agree on that in the Latino community because, you know, in my case, I have the best of both worlds, so I get to see both sides. And I would say definitely in the Latino aspect, we definitely don't see enough people of color or Black people in the media at all. But, you know, I pray that eventually things will change. And when it comes to the physical aspect, for sure. Well, I'll be honest, you know, I was bulimic at one point in my life. I've always had a disorder with my eating habits. I've always see myself distorted when I see myself in the mirror. I don't see what everybody else sees because people will be like, oh, you're so pretty. And to me, it's like, oh, I'm pretty, but I have cellulite, I have dimples, I have a pimple, I have a this, da, da, da. And it's not that I lack confidence now, but the industry puts so much pressure on you to be like this perfect, flawless, photoshopped image 24/7 that you start to believe those things. So I definitely understand how the industry can put so much pressure in the media for you to look a certain type of way, and it's sometimes very unrealistic.
Of course. And also this is like a multi-billion-dollar industry that is not gonna make its money if we all felt good about ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's also a profit motive for why all of us should be like, oh, I'm too this, or oh, I need that, or I need to cover this, or maybe I need to straighten this out. Like, we're constantly in like a journey, and there's always products that are being sold to us, and products or procedures or fillers or all the things, and it's, you know, we're constantly swimming in those messages. So I think it takes a lot of discipline to have to be like, wait a minute, like to fight that body dysmorphia you talk about, right?
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's hard. Like we're trying to go out against the grain, and it's everywhere.
It's a lot. People on social media, specifically on Instagram, use filters to lighten up your skin.
I mean, it makes sense to me. Every time I see a filter, it gives you like a little bit of a fairer tone. It snatches your nose. It like clips it really strangely, and then like augments your lips. Like, have you noticed how like that's the vibe on all these
vibe
filters?
now is to have lips like this. The same lips that they used to criticize Black people for naturally having, now people are paying for them, and they're using filters to enhance their lips. The same things that they criticize us, even with our bodies, our butts, hips, all these things that are natural curves to us, they were like, oh, that's bad, da, 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 and look at that now.
All these things are like so subtle, and sometimes they're overt, right?
Subliminal.
Very much so. Subconscious, we're consuming it all the time. Like, you know, we were talking about even like contouring, where like people are like, let me contour my nose. Like I hear that all the time, like, oh, let me make sure my nose doesn't look too wide or too big. And it's like, what is that giving, you know?
Right.
So all of this is tied. I think we need to be more critical of the messages we take to just be true, or that we don't question enough. Like, wait a minute, why do I think that? Like, what is, you know, why do I feel cool or more beautiful with a filter that is, you know, making my nose look like a white nose, right? I mean, we know why, right? Like, this is a history of over 500 years that we're not gonna combat in one day, but I do think we have a responsibility to be a little bit more acute about it and name it, right? Like, be like, no, that's racist, that's anti-Black, that's white supremacist.
Right.
Where do we go from here?
Hey everyone, if you'd like to see the full episode of our conversation on race and colorism, head over to Don't Cancel Me with Amara La Negra on FuseTV and streaming on Fuse Plus.